TV.
Welcome back, and many thanks for staying with us right here in Morning at NTV. My name is Romy Busiku. We are veering into another pertinent discussion. How best shall the technical schools conduct examinations? We also do understand that the registration of the same was halted in May or June this same year. So between 19th, yes, of October this very month and the 30th of this very month, there will be registration for exams, technical exams that shall be taking center stage on the 23rd of November this very year. Now, for the other examinations, you'll be registering around December and you'll be sitting for these examinations next year around March. I do have the Secretary of the Uganda Business and Technical Examinations Board, Mr. ISJ Onesimus, and he joins me right now in studio. Very good morning, sir.
Good morning to you and
Yes.
good morning our viewers.
First of all, let's talk about the reopening of schools in general, not only the technical schools. Do you actually agree that it's a good idea to reopen schools at this time when we're dealing with a pandemic that has wrought very, very bad, devastating effects? 9,801 cases. Is it feasible?
Yes, it is. And all discussions that were held before the announcement and the rest, the thing is, suppose this does not stop, the pandemic continues. What shall we? So I think we're, as a government and the ministry, they are saying, let's test and see. And that is, I think, it is very, very true. It's good. We have to proceed.
So how are you preparing these vocational institutions to hold examinations during this time?
For the technical vocational schools, of course, we conduct exams first, those which are based on a semester basis, then we have those which are based on termly basis. So by March, when we closed the technical schools, we were supposed to do exams in May, June, and the registration had just started in early March. So we are now resuming the registration again in October, from 19th to 30th October. Then for those who have issues with the registration, again, we usually give them another extra week from 2nd to 6th November. Then we have the exams which were supposed to be November, December, those which are for national certificates. Those ones, the registration now will resume 2nd November up to 11th December. Now, the other exams of May, June will be conducted between for diploma technical awarding institutions from shall have the exams on 23rd, from 23rd November. Then for business education institutions, those ones will begin on 30th November. But the other ones, for the termly basis, which would have been for November, December, we expect to conduct them in March according to the calendar that has been released by the Ministry of Education.
And we also understand that the students have been at home. Some live in places where they could not get, like if I live in a border district, the radio stations that I'm getting are from Kenya. So they were not getting information to help them continue learning from a distance. So as it is this enough time to prepare these learners for the examinations?
Yes, we looked at all that, and if you look at the calendar which was released by the Ministry of Education and Sports, we have catered for that. For technical schools who could not go into easily going to learning at home. Some of these are hands-on. So we have catered for those weeks that were remaining to the end of the semester. Those ones have also been added. That's why the exams have been extended to that time. So there's no time loss, except there will be some bit of speed, but we have made sure that they release the calendar caters for the remaining time which they had before the closure. So that will be no problem. Even for the other ones, for November, December, they also have their time covered. Because by the time they close, I think they are remaining like 6 weeks, between 6 to 8, and those weeks have been added, and then we shall conduct the assessment.
All right, because poverty has become a subject that is making headlines everywhere as a result of COVID-19. Parents do not have money, Mr. ISJ. And we are talking about reopening schools, examinations are taking center stage. Where will the parents get this money? That's not your question. But what do you plan to do to help such parents who do not have money at this point in time? Will there be some kind of, measure to help these parents?
Students are presented by training institutions to us. But also, if I speak like a parent, You know, this pandemic, this COVID pandemic has not affected the only, even me, I am a parent, I have, even you, I'm sure you are looking after someone. So, there are very many excuses coming up about reopening, what do we do, and sometimes they make it even impossible. But I think it's right that we sort ourselves and say, face this challenge together. And usually, now training institutions, for example, have advised them, let them not increase any money as far as the registration or examination is concerned. For us, who have remained the same amount of money, which is between 100 and 110,000. But generally, nobody should stand this side and say, you know, we are like this. Or, no, we have to face it together. And whether they negotiate with the schools, but even with us, maybe some people do exams, maybe but we get students from training institutions. They shall negotiate with training institutions and see. But my advice is that let the public not make it impossible for even schools to start. Let us get in as usual, as we struggle in life. When such a challenge comes, you have to open up and go in and struggle together.
Of course, Mr. Onesimus, you also understand that the Ghana Business and Technical Examinations Board is planning exams for over 40,000 students across 203 UPTEB centers. But what about those school proprietors who do not have registration centers? What will happen to them? What is their fate? Those who can't afford the registration centers.
First of all, for us to have for you to get our accreditation, we insist that you have to have 30 students and above. But the practice has been that if you have very few students, one, transfer them to another training institution. So that we also operate on economies of scale. We conducting exams for 4 students the same as conducting exams for 30 students. But the advice I give them still, they can look at the neighboring, they can combine efforts and they put students together and they do exams. But also, I don't expect, you know, this is not a secondary, this is not a primary, this is a high level training institutions with a lot of equipment. So I don't expect really that there is that. And we have not, as far as we are concerned, I've not had that excuse. Of course, there are small things which are coming up in order for these institutions to meet the SOPs, and they are seeing increased expenditure. But I don't expect that there is going to be an institution that will not going to open.
Well, Mr. Onesimus, have all these educational institutions, especially these vocational institutions, been issued with clearance from Ministry of Health? Have you received clearance before we veer into these examinations?
What is happening is that the Ministry of Education and Sports is carrying out the inspection, general inspection.
General inspection, yes.
And they are doing it together with the local communities.
But by yesterday, they hadn't even finished half the schools in this country. So many people are saying, how are you going to reopen schools before issuing certificates of clearance to all the schools in the country? Don't you think it's a recipe for disaster?
No, I think they are doing it, and maybe by the time they open, we shall have all the schools covered. Because I was here in Nigeria, they are doing it.
By the 15th, today is the 4th.
Yes, they will do it. They will do it because they are not doing it from central. Yes. They are doing it together with the district inspectors, with the regional inspectors, and the rest. So I'm sure by 15th, we shall have carried out. But also remember, this is the new normal. It's not a normal situation. Yeah. So hopefully, because
I was looking at the numbers, Mr. Onesimus, like you have like 66 technical institutions in Wakiso, but then there are around 500 secondary schools and 1,600 primary schools. But get this, only 5 inspectors. Meager resources. Don't you think this might play very, very badly as we reopen schools?
I understand they are not doing it the way that the inspectors, they are using all other ways like community leaders together, like there are teams in Wakiso will be in a team, every district will have a team. So it is, I'm sure the way it has been planned by the ministry, we shall achieve that one.
Okay, yes, take us through some of the standard operating procedures that were assigned for exams.
Of course, remember, originally as in the examination room, we were commending, and that's what we have been doing, that people sit 2 meters away from each other. And now we are going to 4. That is also something we have. Then on practical examinations, we have equipment. People use the equipment, computers, other equipment in workshops. Now it means that if they were doing it in the 2 shifts, you are going, because of this social distancing, you are going to find very many shifts. We are saying, of course, there's going to be some increased cost on our part in terms of invigilators, but also is that if people finish working on equipment, it has to be sanitized, it has to be cleaned first. If it is a computer, it has, so there is that interval, and but majorly social distancing, and also making sure that the equipment they use is used. If an individual finishes, another one takes over the machine. There has to be some bit of cleaning, really, to make sure that we don't transmit the COVID-19.
Indeed. So what challenges do you anticipate as we reopen schools and as you conduct exams?
As an assessment board, we expect the challenge of increased cost in terms of how many vigilators we are going to have.
Yes.
Because if you have been using 2 rooms and you have doubled, it means those are 4 rooms. Indeed. And those are 4 invigilators. And also it means that even the scouts will have to increase. And taking on even those SOPs relating to workshops, SOPs relating to examination room, to really be, it will increase our cost. But even based on that and based on the current conditions, we are saying, let's use the same amount of registration fees which we shall be constrained, yes, but we want to make sure this process goes through, and maybe by the time we finish or another exam comes, we shall have a normal situation.
In other education institutions, they are talking about setting up psychological centers that can offer reprieve to some of the students. You know, the lockdown has had many debilitating effects on our students. So is there such a measure to offer psychological support to the students before the exams, or do you just plan to get into it directly?
As an examination process, we usually spare if the exams are beginning on Monday, on Friday, we call it briefing. But part of the briefing, I think, will be through psychosocial support. Yes. But it's not only students who need the psychosocial support.
Even the teachers.
Even the parents themselves, all of us. You know, if you look at the effect of this pandemic on our social life, yes, we all need it. But for particularly in students, and as far as the examination is concerned, the day for briefing, they'll be partly for. But I think the schools are put in place of the way how we can handle that one. But it is required. It is very important that people are brought back on board. Students are at home, they don't know what is. Then even the fear.
Now you're bringing them back there.
Yes.
Handling examinations there and then.
Sanitizing all the time. I've been here, I did it 3 times. I told you 3 times. Yeah. You are somehow mentally not okay. You have to chat. But hopefully there is going to be. Part of the school will do it, but for us, as far as our process is concerned, we shall do it during the briefing. If there is anything that is going to, but by that time, students will have gone through the remaining weeks. They are going to be at school already.
Ms. Onesimus, do you foresee a situation where in the near future we start doing these exams online as a result of COVID?
Yes, we have started thinking that way. Might not be as a result of COVID, but even the new normal. At first, all over the world, or even in our region, you would see people saying polytechnics, technical schools, how do we handle? But now the thinking has started. As the board, we have reached this team in place now looking at what happens in future. And we hope that I've seen even books now have been produced about how you can conduct lectures in technical schools online. And equally, we're also looking at the possibility that in future we might have to do online examinations. So there is that. But you know, COVID got all of us off. We were not ready for it.
Indeed.
It took a long time, even the developed world, it took a long time to get online. But I think we're also planning that.
They were actually forced to get online. I saw what happened in the United States, within China, within France. They reopened, fine. But then a week or so later, they had to go back online.
So here I think there's at the ministry level, there's a technical team which has been put in place. You know, my 2 staff are already on that team. But also at the board level, we also have a team working on it to look at the possibilities in future, what happens, and I'm sure we shall take off.
Let's interrogate the worst case scenario. In case you register a COVID-19 case, how do you plan to navigate that situation?
During examinations, of course, they have to that. You see now, when you look at the way we operate,
Yes.
remember that yes, we are a government institution, we are in the Ministry of Education, but the way we relate with these candidates, we relate with them during assessment and examinations. So during the examination, of course, automatically that one will have to be isolated, and that's why I think in the bigger picture of SOPs, they are insisting that each institution has to have an isolation room. But I'm sure even in that isolation room, if one is not really sick, can continue and write exams and finish. Yes.
What should be at the back of the minds of the students as they get ready for the examinations and to trek to these schools to start studying and doing examinations?
Of course, they should not. I don't want. It has also happened in when you look at the way people are asking. They should not ask very many questions. What if? What if? What if? Let's suppose what if it does not happen, and they should come in as if it is normal. There are going to be changes. There are going to be some abnormal situation. Let them not have a lot of questioning. Let us focus. When you look through on my Facebook page, somebody says, "Why are you taking the final risk you are leaving us?" But let's not ask those questions. We are operating in an abnormal situation. Let's have it that way. I know, of course, as children, they might not understand, but as parents, they should guide these students and the general public that those questions we are putting up, even some don't have answers. We don't have answers ourselves. But we're also working through. It's like you are in a tunnel and you are seeing somewhere right and you're saying, let's follow this tunnel. So I would really advise them that let them not go, prepare their minds for this abnormal situation, and we'll go through it together.
Mr. Onesimus, do you envisage a situation where you might be forced to shut down schools in case there's a skyrocketing number of COVID-19 cases among the students?
You know, if you look at the way, you remember at first there was they allowed the medical students. Now we are taking the candidates. It is, to me, it is like we also, like when you are going to step in water, you are testing the coldness of the water. If I visit, if the cases escalate, I hope that we might again lock up, and which has happened to other countries. You open, the situation is escalated, and then you close again. But let's hope for the best. We don't want to go the worst case scenario, as you have put it. Let's hope for the best. I know there are going to be incidents, but we need just to get firm and know. After all, you know, worldwide, scientifically, there are no cases really of young people being affected by this virus. But hopefully, it will be okay if it happens. Again, the president will take, and the SANS team will take a decision, and we shall follow up. But it's also good that we have taken this courage. We have said, no, let's begin and see. Not just waiting and say, no, no. I think in behalf of the government, that decision was very good. Then we wait and see. Yes, please.
Of course, now the biggest scare among members of the public are the support staff. Some of the people I was talking to, they were saying it could be the students, could be the teachers, but then the support staff, because they get to leave the school in and out. They're in, they're out. So they could catch the problem from the community and then bring it back in the schools. How are you planning to navigate that problem?
No, I think there is a standing operating procedure regarding that one. I'm not very clear about it, but I know as much as possible they are saying make sure that all the people stay at school.
They don't leave.
They don't leave. Very hard for most of the schools. But let them also not start questioning that one, because we are in an
So don't question, just implement.
No, just implement. There are very many things which even questions are many. So even the parliament questions are many. Even in my mind, there are very many questions, even in yours.
Yes.
But if we continue those questions, we might never open these schools.
But we have to interrogate the worst case scenario so that people are ready.
Yeah, if it happens, but I think the SOP there is saying as much as possible, make sure that all people stay inside the school, the workers, not easy, but that is the standing operating procedure. And it is for the best benefit of the school, for the benefit of the students, for the benefit of the whole country. So hopefully people will observe that one.
Of course, we are also getting information, Mr. Onesmus, that some schools might never reopen because they do not have enough money. When it comes to vocational institutions, what is it like? What is the status of those schools? Do you also envisage a situation whereby some technical institutions might never reopen because of money issues?
We have been engaging through different media. We have not had a case where somebody saying is not. Of course, I saw through media that some schools are not going to open. But we have, as far as the subsector which we work with, the technical vocational education and training subsector, I have not had that one, but it could be there. But also still I go back to the question, let the proprietors not stand and start asking questions. Yes. What if it's going to cause problems? Let us, as much as possible, whether it means, because these are, if they are private institutions, this is a business. People, you remember when the arcades were closed here, people were not working, but when they opened, some found the stock was gone, some, but they are back on feet. So we must, but when you start saying, you know, government cannot solve all those, because it is also a crisis here, I'm sure even tax collection is low. So I expect that all schools are going to open. I have not had that feedback through the social media or through normal channels we have for communication, that there are schools which actually they are asking about how do we get gun, temperature gun, how do we do this, and we are together.
Are you helping
we are advising them what to do. When we get where they are, there is a source where there is, but they will open.
Now, the Ministry of Education is also planning to transfer students who are in schools that do not meet the standard operating procedures to those that meet the standard operating procedures. Now, for the issue of the vocational institutions, have you seen such a scenario taking center stage?
So far, I've not. So far, I've not had that one. But
so all of the vocational institutions meet the requirements?
Operating procedure across the whole ministry. If there is that case, then they will also transfer. But technical schools are different. They're not like the secondary, the primary. These are, first of all, even to begin in such a school requires a lot of investment. So I don't think, just having a workshop itself is
but we have to ask.
Yeah, since it was also even in the presidential address, they mentioned it, that if you can't open, transfer the students to another neighboring school.
But is it enough time to reopen? Remember, September 20th, we made a proclamation. October 15th, we are reopening. 24 days. Is it enough?
Again, if it was a question of enough time, we are not operating in the normal situation.
Indeed.
Because we know our calendar, it is known. But now you look at the calendar the way, you know, those questions are not, it's good you're asking. Even ourselves, we ask ourselves, even in the meetings. But if you have to continue asking those questions, the timing, why are you not calling all the students? Then why are you calling this one? You know, in a semester system, for example, every examination is final. Therefore, you would need to call all the students under the diploma awarding institution. But we are insisting, no, let's have those who are supposed to finish May only. And very many questions are coming. So I think it's not time for questioning. Yes, we can question, but we might not get all the answers. But it's time that we act together.
Amazing.
So that we don't have a question. Of course, there is if something happens, the blame theory. Hopefully, nobody's going to blame each other. We are in it together. We are testing it. When something happens, we will go together.
Onesmus Oyesije is the Secretary of the Uganda Business, Technical and Examinations Board. Many thanks for having made the time to speak to NTV.
Yes,
a pleasure.
Thank you for hosting me.
And you're still watching Morning at NTV. We are going to